Okay, we're going to take a look now at 6-3. We're only going to do the left column because I think that's a little bit redundant. So we're going to use the algebraic steps to rewrite each equation in slope-intercept form. And then we'll have to identify the slope of the line and the y-intercept and say how can we tell. All right, so the first thing we're going to do on this one is if we want to get y alone, we got to get rid of the 2x. So we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. And what happens is that there's no longer 2x over here, that's gone, but we need to subtract 2x on the right side to make it equal. So it's going to be y is equal to, and we had the original 1x here. When we subtract 2x from a positive 1x, we end up with a negative 1x. The reason for that being that we had a positive 1 and we took away 2. So it's negative 1x, and then we maintain the minus 7. So the new equation says, this is in slope-intercept form, it says y equals negative 1x minus 7. Okay. Now you see it says divide, which is sort of a holdover. We've been subtracting and dividing every time, so maybe we have to subtract and divide this time. But another way of looking at it is to say, well, we do have to divide, because it says we do, but what will we divide by to keep the equation saying the same thing it did before? And if you think about it, anytime you divide by 1, you're not changing the value of the equation. So if we had to divide, let's divide by 1. It's going to keep the equation exactly as it is. It's going to be y equals negative 1x minus 7. Done. Okay, so what's the slope of the line? The slope of the line is the coefficient of x, the number in front of x. So the slope of the line will be equal to negative 1. And what's the y-intercept? It's the number at the end of the equation, which in this case is minus 7 or negative 7. How can we tell these two things? Well, what I like to say is I converted the equation into slope, not slop, slope, intercept form. The coefficient of x was the slope, and the constant at the end was the y-intercept. What that means is, well, of course, let me make sure my spelling is correct. Yeah, 2 e's instead of 2 f's. I converted the original equation into slope-intercept form. That's this. The coefficient in front of x is the number in front of x. That's always going to be your m or your slope. And then the constant at the end, it's a constant because it's not variable, it's just a number. That's going to be your y-intercept. So in this case, the y-intercept was negative 7, while the slope was negative 1. Okay, so that's it for A. We're going to skip B and just do C. So if we look at C here, C has 3y plus 2 equals 2y minus 5x. Interestingly, this isn't really standard form. We have y on both sides and we have x only over here. But I do want to get y alone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. And here's my reasoning. If I subtract 2y from both sides, this won't be there anymore, and I'll end up with less y over here. So if I started with 3y and I subtract 2y, I guess I'm left with 1y. It's 1y plus 2 is equal to, now that 2y is gone. It was there, but I subtracted it. So it's not there anymore, so all I have left is negative 5x. 1y plus 2 equals negative 5x. Alright, so I'm close to getting this y alone, but I've got to get rid of this 2. So I'm going to subtract from both sides. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. That gets me 1y plus 2 equals negative 5x minus 2. So 1y, oh, I don't know what I was thinking. Do I still have the plus 2? No, I don't, because I had to subtract it. I don't know why I drew it. Doesn't belong there anymore. 1y equals negative 5x plus 2, which is great. I have this 1 here. Doesn't really mean anything, but I guess if I want to get rid of it, I could divide by 1. Hey, all right, that'll work. Let's take a look here. 1y divided by 1, I'm pretty sure is y. Cool. The rest of it, just like anything else that you try to divide by 1, will stay exactly the same. So y equals negative 5x minus 2, and we're good. What is the slope of our line? Well, we're in slope-intercept form. So the slope is the coefficient of x. So the slope here will be negative 5. What is the y-intercept of the line? It's going to be the constant at the end, so it's what we're subtracting. We're subtracting 2, so it's negative 2. How can you tell? Well, the funny thing is, this is exactly the same question we were asked with a very similar problem recently. So you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to use my old friend copy and my friend paste, and I'm done. I converted the equation into slope-intercept form. The coefficient of x was the slope, and the constant at the end was the y-intercept. Doesn't that look smart? Okay, cool. Now we're on to E. E's a little bit of a challenge. It starts with distributing, and we're distributing the negative 3, so that's pretty tough. But I see a negative 3 here. It's 5 minus 3 times this. So basically, I have to multiply everything in these parentheses by the negative 3. So that's tricky. But this 5's got nothing to do with it, so I'll just keep it. So it's going to be